On the evening of September 18, 2019, in the UK, a young girl who had just turned 20 decided to treat herself to a special birthday present, a night of partying with friends, listening to live music, dancing, and enjoying her youth. That girl was Keely Bunker, beautiful, kind, with a loving heart and a bright future ahead of her. She was just one interview away from her dream of becoming a primary school teacher. But just a few hours later that night, the dream was buried forever, under a small, cold pond, in a park just 20 minutes walk from her home. Born on September 7, 1999 in Sutton Coldfield, Keely grew up in a loving family. Her parents, Chris Bunker and Deborah Watkins, were always proud of their daughter, gentle, kind, and willing to help anyone. Since childhood, Keely spent a lot of time supporting her aunt and taking care of her disabled cousin. Not only does she have a kind heart, but she is also really good at caring for and connecting with children, which made her even more determined to become a teacher. Growing up, Keely lived in Tamworth, Staffordshire. She worked part-time at Drayton Manor theme park while preparing for her dream of becoming a teacher. Music was also her passion, especially British rapper H. And as a gift to herself, Keely bought tickets to see H perform at the O2 Arena, Birmingham, right after her 20th birthday party. That was the last time she was seen smiling brightly. On the evening of September 18, Keely and her best friend Monique Ryan took the train to Birmingham to see rapper H perform. Everything went well. After the show, the two girls still had energy left, so they decided to visit another bar in Tamworth, Snob's Bar. On the way there, they met Wesley Street, a childhood friend of Keely's. Although they were no longer as close as before, Keely still invited Wesley to join them for fun. The three of them went to the bar around 10:40 p.m., drank and danced until 2:40 a.m. Monique called a taxi to go home, and Wesley and Keely went with her. But Wesley started to feel sick and nauseous from drinking too much. They finally stopped at Monique's house at 3:30 a.m. Monique was worried and suggested that Keely stay at her house for safety. But Keely refused because she had an interview for a teaching assistant at 2 p.m. that afternoon. She wanted to go home to rest and prepare. "I'll go with Wes, it's okay. They'll take me home," Keely said. The two left Monique's house around 4 a.m. Monique recalled that she told Wesley, "Make sure Keely gets home safely." He nodded. But that was the last time anyone saw Keely alive. As the morning wore on, the family grew worried. Keely didn't respond to messages or phone calls. She didn't show up for her interview, something that never happened to someone as serious as Keely. By noon, Monique tried calling but got no response. Calling Wesley, he said that Keely had left his house in the early morning, after he had stopped by because he was tired. "I left her near the phone booth near our house and went back inside. I thought she would walk the rest of the way," Wesley said. At 5:30 p.m., Keely's father, Chris, arrived home. When he heard that his daughter hadn't heard from him all day, he immediately called the police. A massive search was launched. The whole town of Tamworth was shaken, with people searching all night with flashlights, scouring the park and the nearby pond, and then, they heard a scream. It was Keely's uncle, Jason Brown. He was the first to see his niece's body lying partially submerged in the water, her hair tangled, her body cold, her hair tie still on her wrist. Keely was only 20 years old. She had been strangled to death, sexually assaulted, and had multiple defensive wounds on her body. The police immediately switched the investigation from missing persons to a serious murder case. The first person to be called was Wesley, the last person to be with Keely. At first, Wesley cooperated. But when the police asked for his phone, Wesley became defensive, anxious, and refused. Then he changed his story several times. He initially said Keely left alone, then said she fell into a fence and died of an accident. But the forensic pathologist confirmed that there was no head injury, and the degree of strangulation was enough to make it clear this could not have been an accident. The DNA on Keely's body matched Wesley's. Under pressure, Wesley continued to fabricate another story. The two had consensual feelings, but during sex, accidentally strangled her too hard. After that, he took a shower, went to sleep, and then returned to the scene 5 times to hide Keely's body under branches and dry leaves. After finding Keely Bunker's body in Wigington Park, it didn't take long for the police to narrow down the prime suspect, Wesley Street, a childhood friend, the last person seen with Keely. At first, Wesley was cooperative. But strangely, he kept changing his story. Each time he was presented with conflicting evidence, he would create a new scenario. First, he said that Keely left alone. Then, when location data from his phone showed that he was at the park at 4 a.m., right at the scene where the body was hidden, Wesley changed his story. Keely fell and hit her head on a fence post and died. Sound reasonable? Not at all. The autopsy completely disproved the accident story. Keely's body showed no signs of head trauma, but her neck bore clear signs of strangulation, along with numerous scratches and defensive injuries on her wrists, arms, and especially her broken fingernails that suggested she had struggled desperately. At the same time, the signs on her body, including sexual assault, DNA, blood, lipstick, and hair, all matched Wesley Street. Backed into a corner, Wesley continued to fabricate a new story. This time, he said that the two had consensual sex at the park, then in a moment of excitement, he accidentally strangled her too hard and Keely died. Not only was this testimony insensitive, it was also completely inconsistent with the scene. Keely had been left naked, her body dragged and hidden under a tree branch, next to a small pond. The killer did not call an ambulance, did not ask for help, but went home, took a shower and went to sleep as if nothing had happened. What made everyone shudder was that Wesley Street returned to the scene 5 times that night, just to cover Keely's body with branches and trash, to hide his crime. He did not panic, did not feel remorse, he just quietly cleaned up and erased the traces. When asked why he did not tell the truth from the beginning, Wesley simply replied, "I was scared. I felt ashamed." The case was brought to trial in mid-2020, just a few months after Keely's death. In court, Wesley still denied the charge of intentional murder, continuing to claim that this was an accident during lovemaking. His defense tried to paint him as a clumsy young man with no criminal record, lacking in sexual knowledge, and panicking after an unexpected accident. But they didn't know that dark secrets from Wesley's past were waiting to surface. Shortly after Wesley's arrest and the media coverage of Keely's case, a string of women contacted the police. What they told shocked the jury. One girl said that in 2015, when she was 16, Wesley followed her into a bathroom, locked the door and forced her to have sex. He did it again a few days later, this time threatening her not to tell anyone. Another victim told of being attacked by Wesley in 2017, also when she was underage. A 20-year-old woman said she was nearly raped by Wesley just months before Keely died. All the victims described the same pattern, being forced into a confined space, threatened, physically assaulted, and silenced by fear. No one spoke up at the time for fear of ruining their reputations, not being believed, or even fearing revenge from Wesley. But Keely's death made it impossible for them to remain silent any longer. The prosecution also played CCTV footage of the last images of Keely and Wesley as they walked towards Wigington Park. In the video, Keely kept her distance several times, gently pushing Wesley away, looking uncomfortable. Far from a romantic date, Wesley tried to explain that it was just playing around with friends. But when combined with previous statements, forensic evidence, and accounts from previous victims, the jury understood this was no accident. This was a deliberate act, concealed, cleaned up, and repeated many times in the past. After 8 hours of tense deliberation, the jury found Wesley Street guilty of murder, rape, and multiple sexual assaults. Sentence: life in prison, with a minimum of 30 years before parole. October 24, 2019, a light rain morning in Tamworth. St. Editha's Church, an ancient landmark in the heart of the town, was packed. Friends, relatives, neighbors, former teachers, even those who had met Keely just once. All were there to say goodbye to the girl with the bright pink heart. The Bunker family had asked everyone to bring a pink item, a scarf, a jacket, a bow, or an armband, because it was Keely's favorite color. Their girl had gone into darkness, but today, that pink would brighten the church, just as she had brightened everyone's lives. After the trial, Keely's family could not hide their despair. Her father, Chris Bunker, said tearfully, "No sentence can be called justice. Keely was the kindest, most innocent, most loving girl. She was just starting out." Her stepmother, Deborah Watkins, shared with grief that Keely had prepared carefully for the interview that day. She bought a new dress, printed her CV, practiced in front of a mirror. She wanted to be a teacher. That was her lifelong dream. And yet, the family could not understand. How could Wesley, who they had considered family, be so cruel? How could someone who had sat down to dinner, laughed with their family, be so cruel? Keely's death has left a deep scar in the hearts of Tamworth's young people. And Monique, the last close friend to see Keely alive, still feels the pain every day. In a tearful social media post, she wrote, "I wish I had kept you that night. If I had just pushed you a little harder, I could have saved you." Many of Keely's other friends are also haunted by a sense of loss of trust. Wesley was not a stranger, he was her childhood friend, someone she had played with as a child. It was because of that familiarity that Keely believed she would be safe with him. The Keely Bunker case is not just a personal tragedy, it has sounded a wake-up call across British society, especially young people, on social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. The hashtag Justice for Keely has gone viral. Many girls have shared stories of being nearly attacked, feeling panicked while walking at night, and losing trust in people they thought were their friends. A campaign called Walk Her Home was also launched, encouraging young men to walk their female friends home, rather than letting them go alone, even if they are with someone they know, because sometimes the person who causes harm is someone you don't expect. Shortly after the funeral, the Bunker family, in collaboration with the local government, set up the Keely Bunker Memorial Fund, a scholarship for Tamworth girls who want to pursue education, exactly as Keely dreamed. If she can't teach, at least other girls can follow the dream in Keely's place, said Deborah's mother. The scholarship fund is not only a place to continue her unfinished aspirations, but also a reminder of safety, kindness and vigilance, sent to each student who receives it. Keely's case is not just a heartbreaking murder story. It's a reminder of the fragile boundaries of social relationships. Being close doesn't mean being safe. Not everyone is worthy of trust. Not all consent is a given. It's heartbreaking to learn that lesson from a 20-year-old, but Keely's death has changed the way thousands of people view relationships and personal safety. No one can bring Keely back. But by remembering her, by telling her story, we can prevent a similar tragedy from happening again. Every time someone brought a girl home safely, every time a strong woman said no and was respected, every time justice was served regardless of who she knew or where she was from, Keely lived on in each of those acts. Keely believes in kindness. And I believe that if there were more people like Keely in the world, things would be better. Her father's final words at the funeral: if this story touches you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to spread more cases that need to be known. Always be careful, and always be kind.